U.S. economy. And in the other side, quantum computing, a breakthrough technology, which we expect that help us to tackle the most important challenges in the humanity, like food security, climate changes, and medical research. Along with these opportunities and expectations, we are facing and will face new sophisticated risks. Bad actors can create malware in less than 3 minutes, and by using quantum computing, the system encryption we rely on could be broken in seconds. So this is a roundtable about understanding these challenges, and it's also about learning and be ready for leading this new reality. Hi everyone, my name is Rafael Roncancio. I'm CEO and co-founder of RSEC. As RSEC, we are a cybersecurity pure player with more than 15 years experience in the market. We help today to protect over 200 million users across 14 countries throughout the Americas. It is an honor to introduce you to this fantastic group of panelists. Let's start with Mel Reyes, who is a very experienced IT executive with over 25 years experience working as a CIO and CISO roles across finance, media, and startup sectors. Merrill is currently leading Elite Technical Concierge, a firm that provides fractional CIO and cybersecurity services. Mel is also the founder of the Southern California chapter of the Information Security Association, where he continues to mentor and empower the next generation of the cybersecurity leaders. Thank you, Mel, and welcome to this conversation.
And Gracias, señor. Mucho gusto.
Thank you, Mel. Mucho gusto. Welcome.
Yeah.
Juan Vasquez, who is an accomplished cybersecurity and IT risk expert with over 15 years of experience working in the finance, healthcare, biotech, and digital asset management sectors. Juan is currently managing director and senior information security officer at State Street, one of the largest asset management banks in the world. So Juan is an expert on technology risk, cloud security, AI, and blockchain. In addition to his corporate role, Juan is proudly serves as an information warfare officer in the U.S. Navy Reserve, bringing a unique experience in the intersection of the national defense and cybersecurity leadership. Thank you, Juan, and welcome to this discussion.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Excellent, thank you. As you can see, we have an amazing panelist today. Let's learn more about their point of view on AI. Mel, let's start with you. With your extensive experience and broad vision across CISO and CIO roles, could you please tell us your point of view about how companies are adopting AI? Is it a real trend that companies are taking advantage of now, or it is a plan to be happening in the near future or long-term future?
So let me, I love the intro, but that you gave about me, right? Seasoned professional, but I describe myself as a disgruntled IT and cybersecurity person, right? 20, 30 years in La Lucha, just fighting through projects and deliverables and everything else. I've seen a cycle, right? A new idea, a new technology comes up, and companies take their time depending on the scope, scale, size of the company. They research it and they implement it. Some companies dive into it. The startup boom 25 years ago, they were moving fast. Larger companies kind of integrated into their plans. And it was a multi-year project, right? It was always a multi-year project. So you take anything from 2000, it was, hey, we got a year to implement. We got 5 years to implement. And then you start to get into like the 2010 and then the 2020. Well, we got to do a little bit faster. I will tell you, the last 2 years, if every company on the planet, every person on the planet, every bodega on the planet isn't looking at AI to help them, they're going to be left so far behind. And AI is a broad spectrum. right? It's not just, because I've lived through the data analytics, I've lived through all the quants, machine learning, I lived through all of that, right? At scale. AI at the top level, and then you take the subs underneath it, agentic and everything else, is absolutely changing our world and our life. So every company that's out there that might take a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 to roll out a project, you need to rethink a lot of things. Every company that needs to get ahead, be it take advantage of market and movement, figure out how to not only implement this part of your process, but also part of your productivity and your product offering, because it is the absolute future and the baseline for what everything, and I mentioned this during our prep call, everything that I see is this is the baseline for how we get to like that Star Trek level technology. And we're living it right now. So that's how I see it.
Now, I would add to that too, with Rafael, a little bit is like my experience is working with various vendors. One of the things to be aware of as well is a lot of vendors nowadays are using the marketing pitch that they're embedding AI, but in reality, they're not, right? They're using another source of technology, because when you look at AI and what we're working with, there's various levels, right? There's foundational models, there's machine learning. So conscious of the audience and just making sure from awareness perspective is really look at like when you're working with different companies and products and services and vendors, is like truly get into the weeds of like understanding the technology, because I've had many use cases where after we start looking under the hood, it's really not AI, right? You're telling me it's a robo account that you're marketing as AI. So I just wanted to bring that as well, because I agree with Mel. Everything he's saying is true. Like we have to embrace it. We have to adopt it. Like the time to embrace AI is now, not tomorrow. But like be very conscious of the fact that you do have companies that are marketing it in a way that's not accurate.
Thank you, Juan. Based on your experience in the financial sector industry, what use cases do you see that companies in this area and this sector are
Yeah,
adopting in terms of AI?
yeah, I would say I gave a speech about AI at the ASIC conference in Chicago, and one of the questions was posed like, what's your opinion on AI when it comes to cybersecurity? Because that's my, specialty. And I categorized AI as a double-edged sword, meaning like the way we're using it is from a proactive perspective, on offensive side of the house, like we're embedding it where an analyst used to take days or hours to do something. Now it takes minutes, right? Because we're using AI to consume massive amounts of data quicker, better, faster. So from an offensive perspective, like working in the SOC, it will improve the way we triage, right? So I tell people from a positive perspective, the security analysts that I work with, like they're becoming better security analysts because they're actually getting to do security analyst work, right? Versus dealing with a lot of the false positives. So the positive of AI is we're using it in a good way to try to be more proactive. We can do things better, quicker, faster. And really the security professionals can get to doing security professional work because we eliminate some of that bad data and some of the false positives. So that's the good, right? The good is AI is helping us be better protected, right? Keeping you better, safe and secure, right? Especially me working in the financial sector, we want to protect your cash, right? So so that's important to us. But on the other end, right, what I see is on the threat landscape side of the house, a lot of the threat intel we've collected, they're using AI to create better sophisticated campaigns when it comes to like the social engineering aspects, right? Phishing campaigns, how we traditionally used to see them were like, hey, grammatically they might not look correct, right? Or there's certain things that we were taught in our phishing trainings no longer apply, right? And no longer apply because with utilizing the AI tools, grammatically they will be on point. Imagery will be on point. So like it will look like a legitimate email, right? So like in our perspective from a cyber side of the house, we now have to change the way not only we detect, but we train the end user, right? So that's the negative side of it. And also, they're utilizing AI to enhance the way a typical attack would function, right? So like a typical ransomware attack, embedding AI gives you the capabilities of understanding how to penetrate that environment a lot better, right? Because they're using it specifically for reconnaissance, right? And also on the reconnaissance side of the house, we've seen that they're targeting the developer community a lot because the developer community has elevated credentials, right? So like there's utilization of AI in like LinkedIn as an example, where they're specifically targeting, developers and legitimately creating profiles and like doing the interview process of as a recruiter, believing that you're going for a job, right? Because the ultimate goal is to try to get to compromise your credentials and your end user device. So that's, like I said, the double-edged sword of it. The negative side of it is our adversaries are learning how to use it as well. So it is challenging, right? Because we're trying to at the same time be proactive and keep you safe, but also we have to get it right every time, and they only have to get it right one time to compromise us. So it is a interesting time to work in cyber, but I would say it's an exciting time because from my perspective, most of it will help us become better, but there is a challenge to stay ahead of the adversaries.
Oh, I
Yeah.
gotta jump in on that because you just gave me like a buffet of topics, right? So having worked to manage the fraud and authentication program for a major credit provider, I will tell you the advancements. I wish I was working there now, right? But because the advancements we were making, we were taking legacy systems that would take, I'm not kidding you, 6 minutes to respond to see whether or not they thought it was fraud to 2 seconds. Now it would be milliseconds and we would be ahead of the schedule, right? And to your point, there was always a lot of reactive,
Mhm.
right? Versus proactive. To your point, I mean, you just I had to get my notepad out. I was like a Diablo, like he just went all in. The other piece is in the SOC, right? At every level, whether it's upfront, whether it's swiping a credit card in the back end, the SOC was always having to drudge through thousands of lines, hundreds of millions of lines. Now it's intelligent, right? There's plenty of vendors that are doing this, large scale, small scale, intelligent enough to say that's noise, that's noise. Wait, there's a blip. Right. Let's pull that one in. So you may come into the SOC with 30 findings in the past. Now you come into the SOC with 3 findings and you can hone in and focus and be, like we talked about, much more productive, right? And you can learn from, hey, yep, we missed the blip, we missed this. You talked about the social engineering component of this, right? Guess what happened at a casino, a year or so ago? Somebody got a notification at 3, 4 in the morning. They were fatigued, this, that, the other. They hit accept, right? And all of a sudden, walls came tumbling down because they were a senior, a security person or developer, like I say. So they're taking advantage of the human aspect of being overworked, underpaid, and all these other things, and leveraging the logic of better language, better tone, better everything else. Because guess what? It's a learning system. AI is a learning system. You feed it the right stuff, it gives you the right stuff. And then the other thing you talked about is adversaries, right? Why did I start with hey, things that used to take you a year, 3 years, or 5 years to roll out? Why? Number one, if you look at the competitive landscape from the business standpoint, yep, startups are going to eat you up if you don't stay ahead. You know who else is going to eat you up? Hackers and nation state components. I have presented over the last 5 years the same slide, and I've been updating it ever since. And it's on the number of CVEs that are out there, right? The critical findings. But I don't present it as a CVE. I present it as hey, here's a growth in the market. Late 90s, 2000, and now. And the way I script it, and it's really simple. I call it MVP, right? So if you look at the the early 2000s, we had an MVP. We had the script kiddie. Somebody could send you an executable in an email right back in the day, and you'd click it, and you're like, but now we got a little bit smart. Then we get into the 2010, 2000 era, and it became a product launch, right? Now we can systemize it, right? And we can pull this in. And then we get into the 2020s. I call it enterprise and global scale releases. So MVP is phishing and low sophistication. Product launch, hackers become an industry. And enterprise and global is APT, nation state, sophisticated attack, and complex landscape. Guess what? If you want to take a year to 5 years to roll out your SOC AI pieces, that's great. You know what it's going to take? 3 days for a nation state or a group to pull together a whole plan and a workbook to be like, we're going to attack this from 5 continents. We're going to do this. We've got a point. We've got a leak. We've got social engineering. So you could take 3 years or you could be attacked in 3 days. If you're not taking the right moves to identify where your weakest points are, which could be human, right? You don't have enough bodies, you don't have enough technology, and you don't have enough compute power, and you're not using it right all day long. I love that one. Woof!
Excellent, Mel. I'm talking about 2 angles that how the AI has been using or for attackers. Second, how the CISO office can take advantage of AI. But in the third angle, with the adoption of AI, will come with new type of risks like shadow AI, model poisoning, data poisoning, so new areas of risk. Have you seen that in the market, Mel, and how the organizations are working on that to be prepared?
So, anybody who's in this industry or in this segment, don't hate me, but this is where the adults at the table come into play, and this is where the controls come into play. GRC compliance frameworks, right? This is why there's at least 5 or 6 different ways that you could look at how do we secure what we're doing. And then in most recent times, there's advancements on how do we put the right controls in place on AI? How do we put the right checkpoints in how we use the data, what data to use, and everything else? So anybody who's in the move fast mindset is gonna be like, oh, I got to fill this out. I got to do this. On the flip side, you needed the adult at the table to say, hey, are we controlling what's exposed, what's not exposed? Are we controlling the output, right? Is it correct? Who's validating it? And how are you using it? Where are you using it? So it is a balance, right? To be aggressive, but to also be right. And when you can get that into the right levers, then you're doing well.
Yeah, I would add to that, like the way I've seen it realistically play out, everything that Mel said is correct. The way that I've seen it and the way that we practice what we preach is initially because we didn't have a good understanding of the technology and how to adopt it, and if it was going to be adopted the right way. And shadow AI was a big concern for us. Was we essentially we took the approach of we block everything, right? We're not allowing anything until it's vetted, right? So like what we did is we stood up an AI governance council, specifically focusing on bring your use case in front of us so we can understand it before you try to adopt it, right? And it worked out well because now at the enterprise level, we have rolled out some tools that were vetted. We started adopting Copilot from Microsoft that we offered to all our enterprise end users, which has been very helpful. I use it daily now, but it was vetted, right? Like we didn't just say green light on everything. And now we have specific use cases where we've actually denied some of them because the utilization of AI doesn't make sense in the use case, right? So sometimes that's also something to be aware of. Like technologists will bring you sometimes use cases where it does not make sense because it doesn't necessarily fit the use case, right? So I think that the way Mel articulated is correct, but like I said, in our world, from a security perspective, like we did have to initially be the blockers. We had to be the Department of No, as Mel is well aware, but it does not mean that we're not enabling you now because we have a better understanding, because now we've set up some of that governance, right? We've set up some of the things that we need to get an understanding and a handle for. And now I would say, like, if you've invested in the fundamentals and in governance, I mean, you're enabling the business to run as fast as they want.
Yeah, in the financial services industry, highly regulated industry, how have you see the impact? Have you seen the impact in terms
Uh,
of
I've seen the impact.
compliance with AI?
Yeah, I've seen the impact where from two sides of it, like the regulators, right, care about it more. They want to know what we're doing in every way possible. And what I've seen also from a business use case, like we are starting to try to adopt it heavily and the analytical side of the house where we take data and produce a product behind it, right? So we're actually trying to monetize it. You know, that's what we're trying to do, to be very honest with you, because one of the things the financial sector has is we have a lot of your data, a lot of data in general. So we're trying to figure out how do we monetize it and create a new service and create a new revenue stream. So that's just an example of what I've seen thus far. And what I like about it as well too is because it's such a new technology and because we did pump the brakes on them really quick. Like now we're included from beginning to end, right? Like where in the past I haven't seen that, right? Some in my previous roles, I was always kind of looped in at the end, and everything that I've done right now when it comes to AI, anything I've done with quantum, anything I've done with blockchain, like because we did have to pause them really quickly and understand and set up governance. Now, as a result, we're included from the beginning. So we're really practicing secure by design principles, which is what you should be, right? Because that's a big hurdle for security practitioners, is not being included from the beginning. Because how can I help you secure something that I don't understand because you didn't include me from day one, right? We're not a bolt-on, right, exercise. I'm not something you add on. I'm something that's supposed to be embedded. So I think the AI is bringing some of that, right? That now we're part of the team and we're part of the launch of the product from end to end, from beginning to end. So that's a positive note, right?
Wait, Juan, we're not just a checkbox of like, yeah, you're secure at the end of the project.
Yeah, right.
So secure by design. Mel, what recommendation could you share for the organizations and for individuals or professionals in the cybersecurity in order to be prepared for this AI era?
Yeah. So to tap into what Juan said and to answer your question, you've got what I look at as three different major buckets of how you can do this, right? You've got a startup. They don't care, but they should care about shift left and security at the beginning, right? So I may or may not have been at a startup that took them 13 years to hire their first security person. And you know why they hired them? Because they want to go public, right? And let me tell you, unraveling 13 years of legacy stuff that they had already built was a whole nother thing. Then you've got small to mid-sized companies, right? Oh, we can't make the investment. We don't have enough money. We don't have bandwidth. I tell you what, you don't have money. You don't have enough money now. Just imagine how much less you'll have when you get impacted by malware, by all the other pieces that are going to impact you, and how much business you're going to lose because your competitors are going to go ahead and do that. And then you have large scale. To that point is making sure you're making the right investments, right? Every large company has a slice of a budget for things, IT infrastructure, security, this, that, the other. Guess what? You need to start shifting left money over to how do we secure it? How do we govern it? And educate everybody up? So it is a shift left. I'm all about shift left. I'm all about zero trust, right? I'm the agent of no, right? People, as nice as I am to the teams, I'm like, yep, no, we can't do that. Where's the pre-qualifier? How much does it cost? What's the impact? What's the space? What data are you going to use? What's the output, right? Give me the quants. Give me everything. And then we talk about business case, technology, and security. So the advancements are only going to be as agile as the company can be. And that's why, I love my GRC people, but, not going to lie, sometimes the reams of documents that they want us to generate are not conducive to being fast. So if that's the case, train them, get the better systems, or get more so that you can ramp up so you can get through that and do the due diligence. But we have to move faster because guess everybody else is going to go blow right by you. Right. So depending on that scope, scale, size, I think the biggest impact isn't necessarily going to be on the enterprise side or the startup side, is that SMB market. The SMB market that is struggling to, do that advancement and don't know enough, right, to be safe, sometimes don't care enough because all they want is money and and market reach and this, that, the other. So I think because of that, yes, we could have 70% of all revenue coming in from the larger Fortune 500. But guess what? That 30% is going to cripple whole states and potentially countries if they're constantly being impacted. Look at the educational systems, right? Whether it's college or post, right, or anything else. They're getting impacted all the time. Local regions, local counties, they're getting impacted, locked in. They either pay or they start over, right? So that's what I mean by that kind of SMB space is like, yeah, they don't make 14, 16 billion, a quarter. So they can't take 1% of their budget, 2% of their budget for security, right? So that's where the reality needs to set in on the leadership side is where and how can you make, what can you add on as a bolt-on if you have a Microsoft, an IBM, or some of the other, folks, what can you add as a bolt-on that'll give you a little bit more room? I talk about CISO insomnia, right? If you're not losing sleep over cybersecurity, then you must have the biggest cybersecurity budget on the planet. And I would dare to have any leader raise their hand to say, I have all the money, any cybersecurity leader say, I have all the money to secure this organization. I would dare them to do that, right? Because I would think a single hand would go up.
Yeah, I would add to Mel's point of view is like the threat landscape, the threat actors out there like understand, right? Like I always give the example when I worked at JP Morgan, our technology budget was $12 billion, right? Which was more than Google's. So a fun fact, the financial sector, banking, they have bigger budgets from technology than your tech companies like your Google, right? So and we need to do that, right? Because of what we do. But our security budget was 25% of that, right? So when you got a couple billion to work with, you can do some good things. So threat actors understand that, right? So to Mel's point, are you going to go after a JP Morgan or are you going to go after a small municipality? Are you going to go after a school, right? A school board? Are you going to, so it's really like looking at it from that point of view is like follow the money, right? Follow the money. You're going to go to wherever you think they're not investing in it. And also one of the things too is they also look at like what are the critical services and vendors that are relied by others, right? Because that's what we're going to target because we're going to create a situation where you have to pay us, right? You have to, because that service is critical, right? It could be critical infrastructure, or it could be a critical vendor that relies heavily on the financial sector where I work it, right? Like that's why we focus so much on understanding our vendors, right? Because we are as strong as our weakest link. In most cases, it's our vendors. So that touches on a lot of what Mel was speaking on, but like it's good for anyone just trying to be in security to understand, right? Money matters and like understanding how you use it, and like how the threat actors think about it, right? So part of being a security professional is understanding how the adversary thinks and what they're gonna do, because that makes you better as a security professional, right? You're the blue team, but you need to understand the red team.
Yeah. And I have to just, I love this. I love this. I could be here all day. I have TPRM burned into my brain. If you don't know what TPRM is, third-party risk management, right? Because I can take a whole system and teams and process and flows and documents and everything else, and I could be 95% sure that we did our best with what we've got, resources and money. Guess what? There's a 5/9% that you have to connect with another partner or another technology, or how comfortable do you feel with their approach to security?
Mhm.
right? And then to your point, the public works, nation state, infrastructure, everything else. How old is the technology in the water company that's near you, the electricity company that's near you, right?
Windows 95.
Drove into, I was meeting someone for a bid for a security piece at one of the major electrical companies out here. All I needed to do was register in a form. The guard saw my name on the form. I went in, I drove. They're like, oh yeah, the building's over there. I had full access. I could have literally driven the car right through the fences into one of their major pylons because the hardware and everything was right there. But I didn't. I took a left and I went towards the offices. But it was open rain. Now, what do I mean by open rain? I parked. Somebody came over. I said, hey, where are the offices for this? They're like, oh, I'll walk you to. It's right here. Didn't ask me for ID. Didn't ask me. And I walked into the office. No one asked me anything. I said, hey, where's the bathroom? I walked to the bathroom. As I'm walking through, I see computers logged in, nobody at the desk, right? I'm supposed to be in a conference room with 30 other people so that we can understand what this bidding process was going to look like. I have free range over their whole floor. I had free range, and we talk. If you think about public electricity, it was a massive campus. Not a single guard outside of at the front gate. I'm like, that's physical. I walked through the hallway. I saw unlocked computers. I'm like, I don't think what you need is this bid. I think what you need is some other educational pieces. But now think about the actual technology to get into there, right? If you're in an area that requires, like, if it's the middle of the summer and you're in Las Vegas and it's 120 degrees and you lose electricity for 3 days, you're dead, right? So when you think about the impacts of cybersecurity, it's the same approach as physical security, but now you can just do it at scale. And when you have AI that can go through permutations, that can go through that, talk about, the DDoS attacks and everything else. Bots are getting better. They're getting more intelligent. They're getting, they can create the patterns. We would see, hey, every 2 weeks, we see a spike on a Saturday morning at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's keep monitoring where that's coming from. And guess what? 3-4 months in, boom, we would get hit, right? Because they were doing their reconnaissance. They wanted to see whether or not we responded, whether or not we blocked it, whether or not we did this. So what we would do is we would set up our honeypots, we would do all our wonderful pieces and drive them there. And when they went boom, we caught them, we blocked it, and then we reported. But all of these things, if you're not proactively looking at this and you're not looking at how to protect every layer, right? Physical infrastructure, public works, all of it, and you're just thinking about your business, you might be missing a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for great insights, Juan and Mel. We can continue talking about AI for a long time. Let's move to the quantum. Juan, quantum computing presents serious threat to today's encryption systems. How should organization be preparing for that type of risk?
Quantum,
Take
for the
some
quantum
action in
revolution.
advance.
So yeah, I mean, all indications and all the research that we've done, right, point that organizations, institutions, government, private should be ready for the quantum reality by 2035, right? That within the next 10 years, that's what they're saying, right? Like, but in reality, like if you want to be upfront and like institutions that have the funding and resources, as Mel mentioned, right, follow the money. We're preparing for quantum now, because like you can't prepare for it like in 2035, right? You're too late. As AI, you would be too late. So one of the biggest things that we're tackling it from to begin with is taking it from two angles. The first angle is we already understand that NIST has published approved guidance when it comes to post-quantum cryptography, encryption algorithms, right? So like from an institutional perspective, we are setting up our our labs and testing those and making sure that we're ready, right? Because as a financial institution, financial services, like we're very, very well the primary target when it comes to this. The defense sector and then telecom, right? Those three are for sure going to be targeted when it comes to the quantum reality. From a business use case perspective, we're also tackling it because we want to understand how can we leverage the quantum computing world. And some of the areas that are interesting that we're working on and doing POCs is the AML, the anti-money laundering perspective, right? Utilizing that to better detect and have a better process. We're also looking at it from a insider threat perspective, like how can we embed that piece. So we're looking at it from like a business use case, how to also monetize it. So like some of the things that I've seen that we're heavily focusing on is on the investment management side of the house and trading, right? How can we use quantum to, better produce those services and products? So that's specifically for the financial sector. So to answer your question, and I gave you a long answer, quantum is a good thing. We will hopefully, if you invest the time and energy, be ready for it. But institutions and people in general, the audience should be aware of what it is, why it's important. And like Mel mentioned, AI, right? Quantum is equally as important, right? Because in my world, imagine a world where you're using quantum computing along with AI. That's what we're targeting for, right? That's our reality, hopefully in the next 10 years. So AI with traditional computing is going to be great, but imagine what it will be with quantum, right? Because it takes computing to a whole new level. So my advice for the audience is learn it, understand it, do your best to be aware of why it's important, especially as a security professional, understand the security aspects of it, right? When it comes to cryptography, encryption, like research a little bit so you understand it, like be deadly enough to have a conversation about it. And also from a resume perspective and getting hired, right? Like those are the people that I'm looking for, and I'm sure Mel is and everyone he works with, right? Like these are the type of conversations that I would be having with someone that I would be interviewing, right? Help me understand what's your understanding when it comes to quantum and why it's important. So advice, from that perspective. But it's also exciting, right? Because once again, the world that we're used to will change because quantum, along with AI, creates a new reality. Like Mel mentioned, it's the new Star Trek. So it's fast approaching, and I'm excited for it. And I'm thankful that I'm part of some of these initiatives, and I'm also thankful that I am part of these initiatives, but I belong to my community, right? Because the purpose that we're here is to have people like me and Mel represent the community, right? And make it a reality, right? Like if I'm in this space, Mel's in this space, you can be in this space, right? And thankfully we're doing things like this to make sure you believe it, right? Because I remember when I was a little Mexican boy that couldn't speak English, I never saw an engineer in front of me, right? I couldn't envision it. I couldn't think it was a reality. And now what I'm trying to do is you have an engineer in front of you. Mel and I are engineers and practitioners. It's a reality for you, right? And there's nothing unique about us. So embrace quantum, embrace AI, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you,
Holy
Juan. Mel, what's your
How do
point
I
of view?
follow that? How do I follow? Look at even my camera's falling off the like el diantre. Okay. Um, Everything Juan said, and the only thing I can probably add to this is I'm going to make it short. I'm looking down a list of the people who are here. Some of the people who are here on this call have heard me said this to them directly in presentations or otherwise. You have an interest, companies have a need, right? You need to find the balance of that, right? So we've got everyone at every scale in their career on this call, right? Some people are looking at, bottom line, CapEx, OpEx. Some people are looking at how do I manage my cybersecurity team? Some people are like, how do I manage my IT team? Some people are like, how do I get out of this effing job because I have too much work? And some people are like, hey, I'm in the middle of my 16th certification. Why can't I get a job? And some people are like, hey, how do I turn on a computer? Right. So we have this whole scope, scale, size. And I bless you, Juan, because this is why I do what I do. And people are like, Mel, do you get paid for this? I'm like, no. I'm like, because I know I was a little pendejito that had no idea, no idea. If it wasn't for the computer in the library in my first job, if it wasn't for the computer that was stuck in the corner, I would have never had access to a computer. But here's what I did. I always stayed aware. I pulled every book that my library had about computers, and it was 4 of them. It was a small library, right? Then I stayed hungry to keep learning. So I did it at school. I did it at the library at school, and I kept learning. Then I kept doing what the only thing I could do was not the stay hungry part, but to take action. And we just talked about this before this call, right? It's cute that you want to wear out the remote on your the battery on your remote to watch Netflix or to do whatever. And I just had this conversation with the mentoring group last night. Take a half hour a day and take one of the ideas of something you wanted to try to do, research it, write about it, or whatever, right? Take an hour, then you might get further ahead. Every day, stay hungry and take massive action. That means learning, asking stupid questions, getting into the right groups, getting into the right conversations like this, and then to figure out how to, hey, Mel, do you have somebody asked for the slide presentation? I didn't see the question until actually I had already shared it in the chat. I'm like, oh, there you go. I just shared the slide. If you look at my profile, you look at the documents, the attachments, I freely share a lot of these things. Why? Because I decided 6-7 years ago that I needed to create a vision for where I wanted to be, and then how do I get there? And you know what I came down to is really simple. And Eric and Yaris, I thank you and bless you for pulling this effort together. It's 2 words. I'm on a mission to educate and elevate. And ya tú sabes who I'm trying to focus on.
Good.
Right? Born in Puerto Rico, raised in New York, and I live in California now. Let's go. Let's learn. Let's push. Let's help each other out. I appreciate you. And thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mel. Let's move to the questions from the audience. I have a couple of questions. First question, organizations are looking to adopt AI to become more productive, like a Copilot or Gemini. Is there a best practice on who should be allowed on and how they should be allowed to use it?
I'm on my webinar.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can tackle that one. So I would say, broadly speaking, tools like Copilot should be embraced by everyone because they make daily tasks easier, better, quicker, right? Like note taking, summarizing meetings, things like that. That just makes you more productive, right? It allows you to have more time to do other things. So embracing Copilot as an example would be a good thing. My only thing that I would say is taking that approach from an organizational perspective is making sure you do have that governance set in place to vet those set AI tools, because Copilot is just an example, but there's many others. It does not mean you just give open access to everyone, right, to use all types of AI, because you're opening up more vectors and doors to being compromised. So I would say take a proactive approach about allowing your end user to use AI, but make sure it's vetted before you give them that access. That's typically how I've seen it, and it's worked well. Mel, anything from you?
Yeah, and you have to have the safeguards if you're a company, a corporation, or organization. And then on the flip side, if you're an individual, you have to be a little bit smart about what you pump into whatever system you have access to, right? Don't start putting your, every document in, your birth certificate and everything else in there. Don't start putting company documentation into external systems, and be smart about it, right? Ask it the right questions, really develop it. And this is part of the learning component that is really important is you've got to be able to connect in, whether it's LinkedIn, communities, organizations, with the folks who are doing and talking about the actual tactical things. YouTube is a great thing for a lot of great people to share what they're doing from an LLM standpoint. You've got ISC, ISSA, ISACA, you've got B-Size, you've got so many organizations that are pulling in experts that are talking about the deep piece, right? OWASP on the development side, that are talking about the deep implementations of, oh, that's one open source or one other project that I could look at. How do I build my own secure environment on a simple laptop so that I can play around and test and start asking it the right questions? Learning the prompting component around how to ask the questions, huge. I swear at this point, I pretty much have a therapist, a technologist, a marketing manager, and everything else as part of the tools that I use, right? I could literally go to it and be like, write a comment of how I would address Juan being so freaking awesome on this call, and I could pump it right in here and it would sound like me, right? I could literally do that right now. Why? Because I primed it, I secured it, and it knows me. If you can build out your own personal component and your learning component, there's tons of free resources out there. Be smart about what you put in there, but also be very, very specific about having the controls in what you do with company information and what you do within your company to make sure you keep things secure. So I've brought up ideas and different projects with folks that have disposable training components. Hey,
Yeah.
1 week we're going to pump everything in here into the company, and guess what? After that week, it's gone. Start
Yeah.
over again because somebody put in some document that wasn't supposed to be in there.
Excellent. I have a second question here. AI-generated decisions are increasingly used in high-stakes environments as
Ooh.
regulations like EU AI Act evolve and many influence similar regulations globally. How organizations can prepare for this, and what role does your security team play in ensuring these decisions?
Validate, controls.
One,
That's it.
what do you think
Yeah,
in terms of
I would say,
regulations?
I would say like, and I gave this example recently, if you're waiting to adopt your practices based on what the regulators are saying and mandating, you're already too late because it's the other way around. The regulators are supposed to be implementing best practices based on what the industry is already doing, right? So I gave the example, I went to a conference. We were talking about our information security program and cybersecurity program and some of the things we're supposed to do and some of the things the regulators are asking. And the way I always looked at it is we tie it back to money, right? When you look at like what you're trying to do from a best practice perspective, there's certain things that you want to do, but you don't have the funding. The thing to leverage the regulators on is when the regulator says you have to do it, right? Then they have to give you the money to do it. But it does not mean you should only be doing it because the regulators are saying to do it, right? So the example you gave about AI and adoptions and what can we do, what shouldn't we be doing? The regulators are going to just mimic the best practices that the industry employs and deploys. But what will be something we take advantage of is the funding piece. Because as soon as the regulators catch up, which let's be real, they typically take a while to catch up. That's where the funding piece is leveraged, right? So as an executive myself that I manage budgets, that's how I look at it, right? I'm not relying on the regulator to tell me what to do. I'm relying on the fact that they're going to see what we're doing and they're going to create a requirement for everyone to do it. And that ties back to how can I get some money from that, right? Like how can I request now funding from the CIO, CFO to say, hey, I have to deploy, as an example, a tool, right? Like I'm deploying a tool right now for resiliency, and I don't have the funding. But as soon as the regulator says, hey, thou shalt deploy tools supporting resiliency, now they have to give me the money, right, and funding. So hopefully that explains kind of how the relationship between you as a practitioner, what you should be doing, right, implement best practices, don't rely on the regulators, but take advantage that the regulators will tell you to do things, but use it as a positive for funding. That's how I've used it.
Thank you, Juan. I like this question, like the next question for closing session. Time flies in just 1 hour. What is a good recommendation for us in the audience to formally educate ourselves in quantum and AI? Mel, give us your perspective.
Yeah. So if you're at the corporate level, senior leadership level, get involved in the senior leadership conversations with all of the major players that are having the Gartners, the RSA, all of the major players who are in this space, RSEC, IBM, right? So that you can learn. It doesn't have to be their technology specifically, but the approaches, the impact, right? You just shared some numbers earlier, $16 billion, right? Those so that they can learn. If you're a senior leader just below that, yeah, guess what? Make the time to educate yourself and get involved, because there's a lot of senior leaders who are head down in the work and the work product, but they don't take a little bit of time to say, I think I need to go out to a couple of these, larger meetings, which there's a whole circuit of them that are out there that talk about these things. If you're in mid-career, stay hungry, keep learning, and find all of the spaces. I know one of the questions was, hey, where can I get more information? I'm going to try to scour all of the folks that share the different resources and pieces. I've done this for tech. I've done this for cybersecurity. I'm going to do this for AI. I have a massive list of links and tools, everything else. That's where you start. Whatever your industry is, whatever your timing is, whatever your educational level is, that's where you start, is finding those kind of resources. And if you're entry level, make sure that you shift AI first. Not just the tech, not just the how do I scan, how do I scrub, do I learn Splunk, do I learn this, is how do I leverage AI to then figure out the rest of the tools. So it's about taking action.
Excellent. Mel, Juan, final comment for the audience.
Yeah, you're tying it back to like training and tools and awareness, right? How to get some understanding. What I would say is there are a lot of free trainings out there that give you the fundamentals of AI, right? And you just have to Google like free trainings. But I have used like specifically because I worked with IBM as a vendor. IBM offers good quantum computing like awareness and just general information just to be an understanding of it. Mel also touched on the fact that we have a lot of organizations, that nonprofits like ISACA, ISC Squared. I have used them myself, but I use them to learn, like, because they create a lot of content and they have a lot of research papers. And so, like, if there's something in particular that you want to learn, I'll give you an example. I had to learn a lot about blockchain because I'm working on blockchain related projects, right? I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't learn blockchain when I went to college, right? It just wasn't a thing that was on my course. But I had to learn it because I started a project on it, but as Mel mentioned, I took the time, and not 1 hour, many hours, to do research, right? And I specifically targeted like those security organizations that publish content. So I dove into IC Squared, and I read up on a lot of what they had to offer when it came to blockchain security and different types of blockchains. And then I did the same thing with ISACA, right? So like my point is like you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are just already organizations that create content, like tap into that. Many of them are free if you're a student. Some of them are low cost. Many of them can be paid by your employer. So like tap into that and like take the time, right? Because I'm gonna be real with you. Everything that I've done in my career, like most of it I did not learn in school. I learned it on the job, but I am a lifelong learner, so I dedicate the time to learn it. Even this meeting, even this presentation, I made sure that I was prepared, right? I wanted to give you good insights. So I put a couple of them down that I thought would be useful. But once again, I took the time to make sure that I was giving you relevant information. It's the same for you all, right? Take the same approach, like learn AI, learn quantum. It will help you in the future. I guarantee it.
Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Mel. Very insightful information, very good recommendations. Thank you for the audience. And back to you.
Yes, thank you so, so much. This is an example of the amazing volunteers that we have who share their time, their experience, and who are here to lift others. I cannot thank you enough. I've worked in many workforce development organizations, but I have to say, cybersecurity community, it's really rocking it. You guys are really interested in lifting others, and that inspires me every day. I would like to share now a great resource that our sponsors. Thank you, Mr. Roncancio, for your support. We appreciate everything that you've done for us for this panel discussion, for the resources that you're sharing now. Please go and just, check them out. And like Juan and Mel said, it's about staying curious. And we got you. We got your back. So stay tuned. Follow us on all the social media to know what are the upcoming educational series. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.